Hey everybody, Pete A. Turner, executive producer and host of your Break It Down show with a fantastic episode. Look, I love this episode. I probably say that quite a bit, but seriously, Rob Paulsen he's just fantastic. He is a voiceover actor, and when I say that, I'm not doing him justice. He is one of the prime voice actors in Hollywood. If you've watched Pinky and the Brain, Animaniacs, Tiny Toons, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then you could cut to me talking for another 5 minutes talking about all these things. He is one of the legendary voices. There's Mel Blanc, and then there's guys like John DiMaggio and Rob Paulsen. It's incredible to have him on, and he's such a grounded dude and realistic and understanding and empathetic. You're just absolutely going to love who he is, what we talk about. And I can't wait for you all to hear this episode. And I'm so proud that we got to tell this story with Rob. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to do more of this because, it's just, you put that guy in front of a microphone and it's just pure joy and pure entertainment. There are a couple of imitations in the show. I do a little bit too myself. And I am nowhere near Rob's level. So when I'm doing it, I'm kind of just like trying not to blow out the microphone. But Rob is just so fantastic. And editing this show was really easy for me because I was just thoroughly entertained, and I know you guys are going to be too. Hey, couple things about the Break It Down show. One, we continue to grow at crazy rates, and I'm going to put out some more shows, some more t-shirts. So definitely great way to support the show. If you click on things for Amazon, that is really helpful. If you want the main Amazon link, let me know. You can always go to breakitdownshow.com and grab the Amazon link there. I know that is an extra step, but it is a small thing. I'm still working on getting us through the accreditation process for YouTube so that you guys can subscribe if you want. The show will always be free, but if you're like, hey, I really want to support Pete's work and I appreciate what he does, that's going to be a great way to support us, whether it's $5 a month, to whatever, 25, whatever it is that you think you want to do. We're going to get that capability going here pretty soon, so look out for these things. One of the other things that we're doing here is obviously supporting Save the Brave, savethebrave.org. You can go there and click on the donate tab and put a small amount of money each month or just a one-time donation. Anyhow, we're going to be building some more things, events, going to communities that say, hey, we support veterans. We're like, how about supporting us? Because we're going to put this money to work. You guys see it. We're in the open about how we do it and what we do. You see how hard we work and how passionate we are about it. So if you or your company want to get involved with us in 2021, well, by all means, let's do it. Let's figure out how to get involved. If we can set up an event, I don't know, is it a chili cook-off? I don't know what it is. Get involved with your fire department and say, hey, we want to do a charity event. Are you guys in? And those guys are going to say yes. Let me know. I am glad to come and help figure that out with you. Pete at breakitdownshow.com. I would love to help build a charitable event with you. I would love to go pitch some businesses with you and say, let's do this. Let's support Save the Brave in 2021 and grow what we're doing because it works. It helps. I mean, I'm living proof of it. All right. Enough about all that stuff. You are going to love Rob Paulsen.
Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Cruz.
This is Bryce Vine.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This
East.
is Sebastian Younger.
This is Daryl Ames.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
This is Dr. Bob Greenberg.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Hi, this is Rob Paulson, and you are watching The Break It Down Show.
And now, The Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
What a treat. I'm super excited. I also want to direct everybody to episode 48 of the Purple Roads podcast. You did that with the guy that used to play Barney. And there's so much good stuff in there. I want to try to cover new ground. But that's what I use for prep. And I always like to throw attention to the Purple Roads podcast or whatever podcast it is that I use for reference material because they did such a great job. It takes a lot of that lifting off of me and allows me to open with a question like this. You know, when you go to amusement parks or the ball game and they have like the stuffed character person, you know, whether it's, the Beast from Beauty and the Beast or
the walk-around characters.
Yeah, exactly, right? Pauline the Seal or whatever her name is in San Francisco. Those characters often scare kids, right? And then you don't get that same visceral reaction, that smile that comes across your face when you jump into any one of the dozens and dozens of voices that you do. Why is that?
Well, I think first of all, look at your face right away. You can't even help it.
Now, that's cool. Firstly, I think it's because, although I certainly don't consider myself a looker, I look like anybody's dad or uncle or grandpa or whatever. So it's not that off-putting.
When I start to speak like Pinky, all it does is hit people right in the middle of their heart and their feels, and
it's really lovely. And honestly, Pete, the person who is the greatest beneficiary from that experience is yours truly. It as double negative. It is never not. And I have to say that I've been to a place in my career now. I have this glorious opportunity that nice people like you give me to sort of share that joy. And it's overwhelming to me. It happens at such a deep level. And so I think the white kids are also sometimes, as much as we appreciate clowns, there are a lot of scary horror movies like It, made about clowns and killer clowns from outer space. It sometimes is a little overwhelming, I think, for little folks when those giant, you see Mickey Mouse on your screen. And then when Mickey Mouse is 5'8", and doesn't speak.
Yeah.
It's disconcerting, and I totally understand that. So hopefully it's not as disconcerting when Carl Weezer comes out of a 60-year-old guy's head. You should see it from my side.
You and your peers, DiMaggio, all of these guys, Castaneda, so wonderful.
Thanks.
Would Mel Blanc be able to be as Mel Blancy as he was today with all this quality and all this talent? I mean, Will Smith does voiceover work, for crying out loud, right? Like
right.
He had such a big presence. He was everything. Is that possible today? Yeah. But would he still be brilliant as well? It's like Babe Ruth playing today. Well,
yeah, exactly. It's could Babe Ruth hit Scherzer's pitching? Look, I don't know how Mel Blanc could not be brilliant, irrespective of when he was alive. If you go back now, again, this technology is incredible. On Sirius XM satellite radio, there's Radio Classics, and you can go back and listen to old Jack Benny shows with Mel Blanc, who is a regular cast member. Jesus, God almighty, unbelievable talent. And remember, he did Bugs, Tweety, Daffy, Sylvester, Elmer Fudd, Foghorn Leghorn, all these characters, right? And Pepe Le Pew and Speedy Gonzales. I understand that some of those characters would not be appropriate today. That's, like I say about history, history doesn't excuse behavior, it explains it. So let's just look at that in the context of what Mr. Blanc did. I had the great good fortune of working with him twice. The first time was on a Jetsons project, and I sat next to him. I was a little bit freaked out in the coolest way. I was maybe 30, and Mr. Blanc was 78. And I said, Mr. Blanc, like everyone with a pulse, I'm a huge fan. If it's not too much trouble, before I could finish it, he knew what I wanted. He looked at me, took off his glasses, said, "Yeah, what's up, Doc?" And honest to God, Pete, it just made me just go I was back in Livonia, Michigan, eating Cocoa Krispies, And so, yeah, the short answer to your logical question is, I with that sort of talent, Caruso would always be a good singer. The reason we love the Gershwins and the reason that singers on American Idol sing Gershwin songs are because they're brilliant songs, and people know that. Good stuff is good stuff. And so remember, it takes half a dozen people to replace Mr. Blanc now.
It does.
And it's remarkable, incredible.
Yeah, it is remarkable and incredible. And then, but also the number of characters available has exploded.
Well, that's true. And your point about Will Smith and other celebrities. Look, I'm an old Hollywood dog. Hollywood has given me everything. I'm from Michigan, and I will always be pure Michigan. I miss the seasons and all that stuff. But Hollywood has given me everything in my career. And I understand the nature of celebrity, and I don't argue with it. I've been in the circumstance in which I've been in projects that have done really well, got an Oscar nomination, made a ton of money for the producers in the studios with no celebrities in it, that is doing the character voices. I've also been in projects with half a dozen Oscar winners that have gone right in the dumper. So like any other medium or any other performance circumstance it requires, if you don't have a good script and you don't have an excellent vision by the producers and the directors and people who can execute the vision, you got nothing.
Yeah.
So just because you have Brad Pitt as the talking dragon and you paid him $5 million. Good for Brad. I'd take it too. But it's not, it will get juice because Brad's in it. But ultimately, it doesn't mean it's going to sell tickets. And now, my God, with the bar, as we talked earlier, the bar is so high with so much stuff and so many opportunities for people to consume entertainment at the drop of a hat, that if you're not good, you get lost in the shuffle, rightfully so. And it's ultimately the people, as it should be, the audience, who has the control. It's exactly the way it should be. If, you can have Jesus in the role, but if it doesn't work for him, sorry, it's just not going to sell tickets.
Yeah, I have two questions right now. I don't want to lose track. So I want to ask you about, and I'm already starting to lose track. Okay, let's go back to the sound thing and how that moves people. Because as you know, and you're a musician, you're a singer, you've done all these things. By the way, we're talking to Rob Paulsen, everybody. You guys all know who Rob Paulsen is. I mean,
he's in the witness protection program. Yeah. That's who he is. Yeah.
You've heard his voice in a lot of different ways. You've even figured it out. Look up Pinky and the Brain. You've been two of the different Ninja Turtles. Animaniacs. We'll talk about that in a minute. But as a singer, as a voiceover character, you literally have access to a time machine for people.
Yes.
Totally. If I hear certain songs, and these aren't songs that are like high in my playlist, maybe never play them, but like if you play Rumors from the Timex Social Club, some goofy band in the 80s, I go back to a certain stretch of the freeway in my hometown growing up. I don't know why.
Isn't that amazing, Pete?
Yeah, it is. Doesn't make any damn sense.
Incredible. Well, it doesn't to us, but it must make some sense to somebody, because it happens to all of us.
Yeah.
Smells to this day. And I make this joke. My parents would both get a kick out of this, and my father would understand what I'm talking about and laugh. I miss my mother every day. I miss my dad about once a month. And he would totally get that, because we had a typical family. My dad was, wear the pants, and he was a little bit of an intimidating presence, and it helped me be a responsible adult. But my mom, I could get away with anything, and I loved her. Okay. But I swear to God, to this day, I can be walking through a supermarket that has the, food testing. Well, maybe not today, but, here, try a sample.
Right.
If it's a smell of something like pumpkin pie, or all of us understand, especially this time of the year, immediately I'm back in Grand Blanc, Michigan, in that, lovely little kitchen with 1970s Formica counters. And I'm putting my arm around my mom, saying, "Oh, I love you, Mom. Thank you very much for making this wonderful meal." And my siblings, all of that stuff. Same thing with music. Same thing with cartoon characters. And I know that's a big leap, but Jesus, it's pretty true. Yeah. I knew that because of the number of people I see at events when we're not doing COVID Con, who will come often drive
Did you
like
just call
from
it
a state.
COVID Con?
COVID Con, yeah. Why not? Got to make if life gives you lemons, right?
Absolutely. Okay,
so
continue. Sorry.
No, not at all. But when I meet these folks who often will drive or fly to buy a ticket, stand in line, just because Ninja Turtles got them through an acrimonious divorce between their parents, and now they're 45 and they're here with their teenagers, and everybody's got their freaking Ninja Turtle shirts on. And the young man to me, will through tears, Pete, say, "Mr. Paulson, I just need to tell you how much Ninja Turtles meant to me. I'm okay now. My kids are with me," and happens all the time. Service people who take their DVDs of Ninja Turtles or Pinky and the Brain or Animaniacs or The Tick or The Mask or whatever I've worked on, because it reminds them of home, and they go to Iraq or Afghanistan for 2 or 3 tours and take their time to come and visit me. Or people who have grown adult children on the autism spectrum who are literally nonverbal until Yakko starts speaking. And for whatever reason, Yakko is the critter that gets them out of their head, Pete. And I don't even know how to quantify the impact that has on me. And it's not just me, all of us. Yeah. Kevin Conroy, who's Batman. Mark Hamill, people my son's age, my kid is a Batman nut. But for him, the definitive Batman is the animated series from the 90s. For 20 years, Batman was Kevin Conroy and the Joker was Mark Hamill. Period. End of story. And when he hears them do it, it flips him out. So, man, I don't really know what the chemical thing is there, but it certainly is authentic, and it happens. It is irrespective of age, irrespective even of language. I've met people who are from Finland who don't speak English, and when I sing United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica, Peru, they start doing what you're doing, and they know exactly what I'm doing, and it's magic. So I don't get it, but I sure like it.
Yeah, it's incredible. I want to talk about when someone new comes up and you sense it, but I want to put a pin in that so I don't forget to come back. So remind me to talk about rookies with you. I want to ask you, because you come from a place that's way far from Hollywood, and I usually ask this question about a reflection on your own perspective on 18-year-old Rob, but I want to go further back. So I think, that dad who puts on his trousers and, probably, I don't know about your dad, but probably never says, I love you. And if they do, it's not maybe you don't. I don't know. There's doubt.
Come here, kid. Yeah. Come here, you nut. Come here, kid.
Yeah. Even your grandparents. What would they say if you said, hey, I'm going to go to Hollywood and people are going to pay me a fantastic living to make these funny voices?
Right. That was
what
really
would they
good,
say
by the
to
way.
you with that? And what would they say now if they were able to look and go, wow?
Yeah, I was grateful and fortunate enough that and let me, to the extent it matters, and if anybody ever knows who knew my parents, sees they're here. My parents loved all their children and were married for 54 years. Wow. And my dad was not a hitter. I think the only time I was ever spanked in my life is when I stole something at 4 years old because my mom wouldn't let me have it. And she was the one who meted out the punishment. Yeah. But my father, like a lot of fathers, was born in the 20s, reared during the Second World War. And you get a job, you hold on to it, and you take care of your family. And I'm sorry, son, if you don't like the way I'd say it, mow the lawn. I know you're going to go play baseball today, but not until you get done mowing the lawn. And if you have a problem with it, then you're not going to play baseball for a month. So mow the lawn. And I do, it took me till I was 40, probably, Pete. I'm so glad you asked this question. It was probably till I was 40 to be able to take my dad aside and say, all right, let's just clear the air right here. When you come to my home and start to tell me how to do things, I have a problem with it. It's taken me a while to get to this point because I don't want to alienate you. But when you told me years ago, understandably, when I left the University of Michigan after 1 year to be in the moving picture business, and I told my parents, oldest in my family, so I'm the example, and I said, Mom and Dad, I'm wasting your money and my time. You know that you've been supportive of all the kids who have decided to be in the performing arts on a local level, high school, et cetera, but you created a monster. I love it. I'm hooked, and I really want to go to Hollywood. And my dad said, well, you do know, A, that's really stupid. B, you do know the money that follows you to Ann Arbor doesn't follow you to wherever the hell you end up, right? And I said, yep. And he said, well, you registered for the draft. You're old enough to vote. Off you go. And you can call us anytime unless it's for food, clothes, or money. But we love you. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. Yeah. Bye. And so they were after that. And after my dad got over it, it was a difficult thing for me, but it is for a lot of kids. A lot of people who end up doing this often do it at the expense of their parents' approval. They do it at the expense of a person whom they're in love with and says, Pete, I love you, but I want to have a family. And if you move from Watertown, New York to LA, I think I'm going to have to stay here and find somebody else. Yeah. And then you're heartbroken. She's heartbroken. Happens all the time. Yeah. So I was aware of that. But my parents, fortunately, lived long enough to come to Hollywood or come to LA and go with me to recording sessions and see that I bought a home and cars and braces for my kids' teeth and dog food and toilet paper, just like every human. Yeah. I remember so clearly when we bought the home that we're still in. We bought a couple of other ones in the interim, but the home we're still in Agoura Hills, California, my dad came out, and I'll be straight with you. This is 1989. I paid $572,000 for it. Now, it's a 2,400 square foot house. Yep. Really nice, but it's okay. I grew up in Grand Blanc, Michigan. The home that I lived in was $40,000 in $1970. But you see my point. Yeah. So my dad came out and he said, how much did you pay for this? I said, $572. Mind you, this was 1989, so at a 10% mortgage. Yeah. And I said, yeah, I said 572. He said, Jesus God, how much is your mortgage? I said,
Yeah.
well, it's about $4,500. And he said, are you blanking kidding me? Lee, do you know how much Rob paid? So all of that was to say that I won an Emmy years later, and I was on TV, and I got to accept it with my parents watching on prime time. And my parents got to see that. And my father literally said, boy, am I glad you didn't listen to me, huh? And so you can't ask for more than that. But before that, I have to, this is important because you brought up my grandfather.
Yeah.
My grandfather, both sets of grandparents came from Eastern and Northern Europe. So I am only a second generation American and a deeply patriotic, proud American to my soul. I was informed as early as I could remember that, listen, hotshot, you won the lottery just by being born to a family who loves you in this country. So if you screw it up, it's your fault, because the people who made it possible for you to be here came here without knowing the language, without knowing how to, write a check, how the money system, all of that. So don't complain about how tough your life is. Okay, now that was incorporated into me as a child. But my grandfather, when I moved to LA against my parents' wishes, it was my grandfather whom I'm named after. My father was Robert Paulson Jr., my grandfather's senior, I'm the third. It was my grandfather who came to my aid emotionally and said, you know what, Rob, your parents will get over it. I love your dad. I love your mom. Of course, they're wonderful. But this is what you've got to do. When I was your age, German U-boats were sinking passenger ships coming across the North Atlantic. And the people on my little island off the coast of Denmark said, Robert, you cannot go to the United States now because there are torpedoes in the water. They're killing people. And he said, Robin, call me Robin, there will always be people to tell you that there are torpedoes in the water. And whether they're your parents or anybody else, you have got to follow what you think is best. If you change your mind down the road, fine. But you're doing what I did. And I would be he said, I would be intellectually dishonest if I told you to listen to your parents in this case. So go to California, because right there is an ocean that is named the Pacific. Let it pacify you. And I'm telling you, he was a pretty bright existential man, and he nailed it. And so, yeah, I was able to do my gig. My parents saw that I was able to go ahead and, pay for peanut butter. And I think they died knowing at least that their oldest child had not ended up in prison, so far as they knew.
Not bad for an average looking guy from Detroit.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm stealing your jokes now. Hey,
go ahead.
I wanted to ask, when did you figure it out? Like, okay, I'm here. I made a little bit of money, but next month, when did you go, okay, I really can do this, and I really am pretty good at it, and it's been recognized?
I think that's an excellent question. No wonder you're so good at this. Your questions are excellent.
Thank you.
I think, interestingly enough, I think when I had a huge career slump 10 years ago, I had been making a nice living. I was in my 50s, and all of a sudden I hit a slump, like pretty much everybody in Hollywood, irrespective of whether it's a slump because you've gone into rehab for the fourth time and you've fallen off the wagon, or you've had 3 movies in a row that have been in the tank. And a career slump is relative. Even if you've got $100 million in the bank, but you're a creative person and your ego and your heart and soul are involved in projects that you have your name on, the press is brutal. And all of a sudden, hey, what happened to Pete Turner? This guy he was killing it. And all of a sudden he's had 3 movies in a row that collectively have grossed $20 million, and each one of them cost $100 million to make. That happens. Yeah. But to me, it just was crickets. All of a sudden it dried up. It happens to everybody. I know that. I knew that. But I had a period of probably about 3 months where I started to get a little bit squirrely. And it was not only my wife, but and my son, but my friends, many of whom were older than I and had significantly more recognizable celebrity and careers, who would say, Rob, it's just, we love you and you're really good, but what makes you special? why should you be immune to the whims or the fickleness of Hollywood? Now, it's not, and they were right, Pete. And you know what it was? It was, I promise you, and I promise your listeners, that's why I say that reference to my dad jokingly, because the ability to ultimately grab yourself by the neck or the bootstraps and say, hey man, who shoved the gun in your mouth to be an actor?
Yeah.
Who told you that this is you have won the lottery, hotshot. You are out here. Everything you have is doing something, paid for doing something you would do for free. You have all your famous buddies. You have an Emmy, you have Annie Awards, you have a Peabody. It's gotten a little bit slow. I guess you better figure it out. Huh. And that being able to sort of emotionally slap myself because I heard my father saying, you're on your own. You won, you've already hit the jackpot just by being born here.
Yeah.
And as we find out and we're able to talk about now, as a result of wonderful opportunities in this zeitgeist to really talk about the truth, I was born into a Caucasian family who loved me, who took care of me. I never, ever had to deal with any issues regarding the way I look, the way I speak, where my national origin was from. None of that. All I had to do was go out and take a swing at the fences. And I had the opportunity handed to me. And a lot of people with far, far less than you and I, Pete, are in positions of power and joy today because they had a lot more chutzpah than I. And I'm so grateful that in that respect, that my dad was the way he was. And I think a lot of people from that generation knew that I'm not going to be a real warm and fuzzy old man, but God damn it, my kid, my daughter, my son is going to take care of themselves. And in doing so, maybe even help somebody else, maybe even be an example for someone else. So that was when I went through that period, as freaked out as I got, I didn't miss a mortgage payment. I didn't miss a car payment. Nobody went hungry. My credit cards got jacked up a little bit, paid them down. I got backwards with the IRS for 6 months, took care of that. And nobody in Hollywood gave a damn about whether or not I had a slow period. The only person who got freaked out was me. And the people who were unfortunate enough to be around me for a few months with me going, Jesus, I don't know. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
Well, I got through it. And you know what? I'm a better performer. I knew, and after that I'd made it, that there really wasn't a point at which, unless I chose not to work,
Right,
or something else, that I was going to be okay. And how many times have you heard people discuss how grateful they are for their struggles, how grateful they are for the opportunity to look back and say, man, I didn't know it at the time, but that was exactly what I needed. Yeah. I literally am better, more driven, more joyful, more grateful. And I've always been grateful, but now I'm super grateful. And I also have a story to tell. And to the extent that young folks, there's that pin in the map,
yep,
young folks coming along have questions, I really know what I'm talking about now. It's not arrogance. Yeah. It's not being a hot shot. It's not being a groove ball. It's like, oh yeah, I know what I'm talking about. I can take a punch and so can you. Yeah. So that's a cool segue.
Yeah, it is. And I'm going to not use it.
Okay, fair enough. It's your show.
I do want to say a couple things. I want to illustrate the point so I live in Orange County, just a little bit south of you.
Yeah, right down the road.
Yeah, and you know how this works. Like for almost everybody else in the world, if I was to say, hey, you can buy a wonderful home and our community is just so fantastic. If you get sick or have a baby, people are going to make you food so you don't have to cook that night. I mean, it is a great neighborhood. If you bring less than $800,000, you will not buy a house that you have to put $400,000 into to get it to livable. I mean, it's, and these are modest homes. These are not Pete, our home is less than 1,500 square feet,
Listen, I remember having the conversation with my son when he graduated from college. By the way, you'll love this.
Yeah.
Talk about don't do as I do as I say. My kid knew the whole story, obviously, right? And so he goes to his birthday parties. Mark Hamill's at his birthday party. John DiMaggio, Billy West. They're all, because we're all friends. Okay. So he finds out, maybe 1 in 4 or 5 of them have a college degree. I'm a junior in college. I'm so sick of this, Dad. I really don't think, I think I'm done. I let him say his piece, and I said, all right, here's where your grandpa's voice is going to come out of my head. Yeah. I can tell you categorically, things have changed. If you show the same kind of impossible, I can't not do this, Jones, for anything that I did, I would say, okay. But it's not like you got to play baseball 24/7, or you've got to be an actor, or your brain's going to explode, or you just have to learn to program, write code, because that's what drives you. I know I'm eating junk food, but I can't get up. You don't have that. Most people don't at your age. So you have to finish your school, if for no other reason than it gives you more options. Please. I had something you don't have, and it's not good or bad. I am driven by the same Jones to create at 64 that I was at 10.
Right.
But not everybody has that. Okay, he finished his school. But when he got done and he got married, he started talking about, God, my wife and I live in Koreatown, downtown LA, and we really would like to buy a condo, but this is just nuts. And I said, I don't know how to tell you this, but unless you and your sweet wife can find a way to make $200,000 pre-tax dollars a year, if you want to live within 50 miles of where you were reared in a similar home, it's just not going to happen. And he says, $4,000 a week. And I said, yeah. And so don't tell your mother, because I will deny it. But if you get a job offer in Tennessee or Wisconsin or Pennsylvania for $1.50 a year, take it.
Take it.
Because as much as I'm going to, and as much as I'm going to miss you, the opportunity for you to live well is something that you will not. And it, like you said, in Orange County, Jesus, LA County, forget it. Yeah. Honestly, Peter, how do kids do it?
I don't know.
And their rent, nice little place, bedroom, maybe 2, 3, $3,500 a month.
It's crazy.
Yeah, but it's got a great view of Wilshire Boulevard. What? Oh my God. I don't get it. So as tough as I thought it was in 1978, when I moved here, I remember thinking after 10 years in an apartment, I thought, oh my God, unless I win the lottery, I'll never be able to buy a home. And now my $572,000 home that my dad said, are you kidding me? I don't even know what it's worth, but it sure is a lot more than 572. And if my kid wanted to buy that home, he'd probably have to come up with $1.5 million. And like you say, it's a nice home, but not fantastic. Yeah. It's fantastic to me. Yeah. But oh my God. So you've really hit a nerve there. And with your kids, I don't even know what to say to them.
And if it's $1.5 million, you're putting a quarter right back into it to update it, because it's
I tell people all the time when they come out to visit, they'll say, look what I got. I live in Fenton, Michigan, on a lake with 5 acres and a trout pond. Well, what do you got? What do you got out here for $450? Well, it's going to look like a crack den. And it's going to have graffiti on it. You probably wouldn't want to put your dog in it. Right. And so if you want to buy it, you might be able to flip it in a couple of years, but to flip it, like you said, you're going to have to put another $300-400 in it.
It's easy.
This episode of the Break It Down Show is brought to you by Lions Rock Productions.
That's us.
We publish, evaluate, and develop podcasts just like this one, consult others to build their own, and create associated content and content marketing strategies.
So if you're launching or expanding your social media presence, your business or your personal brand, or if you just want to take your media presence to the next level,
reach out to us on Twitter
at Pete A. Turner
or at JohnLG69
at the Break It Down Show.
There's 1,000 ways to get a hold of us.
Now enjoy the show.
You might be able to flip it in a couple of years, but to flip it, like you said, you're going to have to put another $300-400 in it.
Easy. Yeah.
I don't even know, man. Yeah, it's crazy.
You talked about the opportunity thing, and I want to get into this because there's a lot of, in our zeitgeist, there's a lot of hopelessness, and that pushes our problems onto other people. And I am a big believer. I believe in everybody. I believe in anybody's opportunity to outwork their problems. Does it always work? No. But if you can withstand the maelstrom, and to become a SAG actor is a goal, but to get paid more than union scale, that's a whole nother goal. But now you're getting somewhere. To do that, I'm just going to tell you, Rob, that's not easy. It's not.
Thank you.
It doesn't given to anybody.
Well, it isn't. But again, and I suspect you're just like me. I didn't expect it to be given to me.
Right.
Because like millions of us, I come from really hardy stock. People who just said, okay, I got to find some way in a tramp steamer to get to Halifax, Ellis Island, wherever, and find my way into Canada or the United States and or matriculate down or up or whatever, just because I got to get out of Macedonia or I got to get out of this, this constant fighting between the Turks and whomever.
Yeah, right.
And they come here with nothing. And so the number of times that my mother would get tearful about her parents coming from Macedonia, northern Greece, essentially, and saying, oh my God, if your grandparents could see what happened as a result of their indomitable spirit, they would. One of the years I was nominated for an Emmy, we took my mom with us to Radio City. I didn't win, but it didn't matter.
It didn't matter. You already won.
Bingo.
Yeah.
And my mother stood there while people were freaking out because I'm Pinky. Hey, dude, do the voice, and taking pictures. And everybody loved Pinky in the Brain. And I was there with the whole Warner Brothers pile, the contingent. And we're at Radio City on the red carpet. And my mother, I looked there and she says, this is unbelievable. Look at this. Look at this. Your grandfather owned a grocery store in Waterloo, Iowa. How did this happen?
Yeah.
And so knowing that, nothing happened to me in Hollywood that I didn't expect. I didn't expect it to be handed to me. I had already had a relative large amount of experience. I was 22 when I moved, but I'd already been on the road because I quit school after my first year of college. I'd been on the road for 3 years doing live theater and music and learned how to screw up on stage and realize it wasn't the end of the world, and auditioned for gigs and not gotten it, and auditioned for gigs and gotten it and been replaced. I knew what that was about.
Yeah.
So nothing happened to me that I didn't expect. However, when I would achieve those milestones, you nailed it. The day that I got my SAG card, I remember calling my parents on a regular phone and saying, oh my God, I'm in the same union as Robert Redford. I can't believe this.
Yeah.
Butch Cassidy was one of my favorite movies. I'm in the same union as Bob Redford. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Or Peter Sellers, my hero. I'm in the same union as Peter Sellers. So I took advantage of the opportunity to remind myself how important those little epiphanies and those milestones are. I am so grateful that I was aware of how fortunate I was and am, because all it does now, you said something that resonates with me so deeply, the disenfranchisement, the difficulty so many people are having as a result of the economy, all that. There are areas, as you know, in Southern California that I swear to you, I feel like I might be in, a bombed out section of Kosovo. I mean, I see tent cities just a little bit east of Laurel Canyon and Sunset Boulevard, which was a really nice area. Now it's tents all the way down Sunset, underpasses, overpasses. Daily, I have at least 10 there, but for the grace of God moments.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not a particularly religious guy.
Yeah.
But I just look at those people and I'm in my fancy car and I'm thinking, I don't have enough money to give all of them $100.
Yeah.
It's just heartbreaking. But all those folks who are struggling so mightily serve to inspire me in a really interesting way. I am profoundly grateful. And I promise you, a day and a night does not go by in which I put my head on the pillow at night and think, remember that guy today who was pushing his bike? It was 102 degrees, man.
Yeah.
And this guy had everything in his life on his back and a plastic bag attached to his handlebars, pushing his bike down Ventura Boulevard. Where's that young man tonight?
Yeah.
That was somebody's little boy. What the happened to him?
Yeah.
And these people inspire me. It doesn't help them, but boy, it sure helps me. And then it just gets me to a position where here I am with this opportunity to speak with my new friend Pete in the privileged position of making a living, doing what I would do for free. And the upshot of my existence is joy.
Yeah.
How on earth do I wrap my head around that?
So this is maybe a year ago, I was driving down the 101 and on the same piece of pavement as the 101. And you know how it goes. Sometimes there's underpasses and there's like whole cutouts and everything.
Right.
So I'm just trying to describe for the audience. This is basically on the freeway, though this person is not on the freeway, but it's the same piece of land. There's just a cyclone fence that protects whatever there. There's a dude laying face down in what is the gutter. And I don't know if that person is dead or not. And you in 101, you're not in a position to stop and render aid to this person, which is my normal response. Is like, there's someone who needs help. You know, I am a first responder. I'd go like, you need help. If your car is broke down in the middle of the street, I'm going to jump out of my car safely and run over and put hands on you, on your car, to give a hand. And it killed me because I know that folks who are desperate need something. And so when I meet these folks, if I have something, you know, like I'll ask them, like, what do you need? And if it's beer, I buy them beer because they have nothing. And so if it's a beer,
good for you, because I'm with you. I understand how people say, yeah, well, you know, I'm afraid if I give them $20, they're going to go buy crack or buy beer. Well, okay. As far as I'm concerned, and I'm from your school of thought, my job is to help them.
Yeah.
Now, I can't proselytize. I'm not going to proselytize. I can't afford to put them in promises at $40,000 a month,
right?
And then give them a job when they come out. What I can do is help them get through the next hour. Yeah. And God forgive me, I'm not a drug addict, but Jesus Christ, if that's what made it easier for me to walk barefoot down Sunset, all I did was give you the money. I hope. I used to do things, and this is an interesting thing. I used to go buy a few $100 worth of Happy Meal McDonald's things, and I have to tell you, about a third of the time, I would get, thanks, man. Can I have $20 instead, or can you give me $10 instead? And this was when I was probably in my mid 30s, and I was just starting to make some money, and I just said, well, gosh, I'm giving you $10 worth of McDonald's. You can eat on that for 3 days if you want. Yeah. I got it, man. But
I don't need that.
Maybe you could, maybe you could just give me the $10. Yeah. And you know what? God bless them. Yep. That there, but for the grace of God. So I'm with you. I just want to help. I don't know how to. So forgive me, but it's just you really hit a nerve, and it's such a desperate state out there for so many people. And we see the lines now of people in their cars, which they probably are having trouble paying for. Yep. And they're folks who 6 months ago never thought about, hey, we'll go out to dinner tonight and we dropped $100 on your birthday. Why not? And now they're going, oh, Jesus, thanks. We got 6 boxes of macaroni and cheese. That's what happened to me when I was a 25-year-old actor, but I asked for it. Yeah. Yeah. Jesus, Pete, it just blows my mind.
I've got a lot of time in combat zones, and a lot of times I see things. Detroit is, I did a whole series on prison chronicles, and these guys would talk about their experience, and it's exactly the same as people that lived in places like Iraq and Afghanistan. And my job was to go outside the wire every day. So I met these people. And one of the things I learned is I shouldn't presume to improve the condition of someone if I refuse to understand their condition. And so you just ask him, what do you need? And a guy said he had a sign that said veteran, I need socks. And so I stopped in traffic-ish, not in an unsafe manner, but in a manner where I was in the way. I pulled my socks off my feet and I said, they're used, but you can have them. And the guy's like, I didn't care if he was faking. I'm a veteran. I didn't care if he was faking about that. He is trying to get through the next 20 minutes, the next day. And if I can aid that, if he buys crack, that's where he is. It's not my job to heal him. It's not my job to force abstinence upon him. It's not my job.
I agree. And by the way, thank you for your service. I am a huge supporter of the military. My dad was a 20-year member of the Michigan National Guard and went to military school. And my partner, Randy Rogel, who we do Animaniacs in concert with, is a West Point grad. And we've done so much stuff for the U.S. So I'm just a huge supporter of the military. But I agree with you 100%. I'm not here to judge you. I am not here. I have been blessed with a capital B so many times. People say to me, "Oh, Rob, God bless you for doing blah, blah, blah." So trust me, he or my friend Tress would say, or she, because we live in that time, trust me, I've been blessed more times than I can count. I am not at all in the position, nor do I want to be, to judge anyone. I try to be intellectually honest and open-minded and apologize when I'm wrong and keep my mouth shut when I'm right. And that has served me well. But my father used to take me and my siblings down about once a year to downtown Detroit in the late 60s, early 70s. And I'm telling you what, Pete, he didn't have to say a word about what we were looking at. He just drove us down there. We finally started to understand what he was doing because we'd get home and all of a sudden, the fact that we didn't have the coolest color of our Schwinn bike was not a big deal. We figured it out on our own. All my dad had to do is say, "Come on, kids, we're going to go for a ride." And the neighborhood in which he grew up in was a combat zone. And I remember when I moved here from Michigan and people would jokingly say, "Oh, you're born in Detroit. Don't screw with that guy," you know. And it was a mess. But boy, did I learn to appreciate what we had, which was a lot. My dad never made probably more than 50 grand a year. But in those days, that was a great living. And I never missed a meal. My mother was home. She was able to be home with us when we were sick. All of that stuff, just like the Donna frickin' Reed show. And now as a grown-up, I understand how incredibly fortunate, but how difficult that is for millions now. And so it just really cuts me to the quick when I see. However, one real quick about Detroit. I was just back there doing a TED Talk a year ago. Oh my God. If my parents were alive, they could see Detroit. It's gorgeous. Downtown, the riverfront, Aretha Franklin Park. The folks, forgive me, I don't remember his name, the gentleman who owns the CEO of Rocket Mortgage and Roger Penske.
Right.
They put so much money into downtown. Sadly, because of the gentrification, you know, the rents are going up like anything else. But I'll tell you, the city is beautiful downtown, Pete. And it is such a gas to see people literally working together in a city that has been so devastated by drugs, by rioting, by unemployment, poor folks, the auto industry going south, going to Mexico, wherever. But God damn it, they're fixing the joint, and it's great.
We talked about these things. You know, your actions have consequences, and when you come out to Hollywood, within 6 months, there's 100 of you trying to get somewhere towards where you're going. You surely met people on the way who were, you know, who in your mind were better at it than you, but they didn't do what you did. What do you attribute the differences? I mean, obviously there's a little bit of luck and everything else, but what is it? You know, because and I can say drugs, I can say a girl back home, it's just homesick, whatever it is. But what would you say it is?
Honestly, I had that experience with a dear friend of mine who was my roommate. We drove out to LA together in our little, I had a Honda and I forgot what Bob had, a Cavalier, I think. But he lasted 6 months. He was a photographer and he said straight up, he was 23 when he left. He said, I just really miss Flint. I miss Grand Blanc. I want to go back home. I didn't think he was giving up. I didn't give him a hard time. I was finding a way to make my own, you know, make the full rent of $360 a month. And I have other friends who did stick it out for much longer, did okay, but never were able to buy a house. I really don't know. Certainly, if you and I had that answer, we'd be having this conversation on our respective islands, private islands. Because, you know, we'd know how to sell it. I don't know. I think that certainly history is littered with people. That's not the right word. Is populated with people who had incredible talent. Maybe didn't have the same drive. Maybe changed horses in the middle of the stream. Because I also know people who came out to LA or to New York, and then at about 40 said, you know what, I really want to have kids. I have a degree in business. I'm going to go back and get my master's at 38 or 40. And then they end up working for a big insurance concern or a big banking concern and do just fine.
Yeah.
So not everybody who comes to Hollywood and doesn't make it ends up in the old actor pile. I think, I think in my case, the fact that I really, truly am and was driven to do my gig. I didn't know I was going to do cartoon voices primarily. I came out ostensibly to do the same thing that everybody else does. I was a singer first, read music, and I came out to do TV and movies and music, and that's what I was doing. And when the opportunity appeared in the guise of cartoons, I just wanted to work. And I was a big fan. I certainly knew who June Foray, Mel Blanc, Paul Frees, Dawes Butler, the usual suspects were. But it wasn't my reason for coming out here. However, here we go with another great axiom. Luck, it turns out, really is when opportunity meets preparation. I didn't realize when I was 14 and creating voices and singing in character because I was inspired by Jonathan Winters or Peter Sellers or Peter Ustinov to create, or the Pythons. I did it because it made my soul happy.
I love it. Chicks
kind of dug it too. And he's not very handsome, but he sure is funny. And doesn't take you long to go, I'm going to do more of that, right? But little did I know that I was preparing myself. So at 36 years old, when I've already worked with Steven Spielberg and Tom Ruegger and the folks who created Tiny Toon Adventures, and they say, hey, man, we're doing this thing from a clean sheet of paper. We love your voice. You can read music. Moreover, you can sing in character.
Yes.
And I got this job. If Ninja Turtles changed my career trajectory, then Animaniacs changed my freaking life. And moreover, it was one of those moments, as we discussed earlier, where I knew that I had to get this gig. It's the only time that I've walked up to a producer and said, if you don't hire me for this, you're making a mistake. And it was not out of arrogance. I knew I had to do 6 callbacks over a 2-month period. I was ready, but it was exactly that, like, holy shit, this is my pitch. This is it. It's the biggest name and producers in Hollywood with Warner Brothers and their relative pedigree with respect to animation. And this gig is made for me. You got to get this gig. And I was right. And so I think a big part of it is just not either, you can either say it's too stupid to quit, or knowing that I'm not good at anything else.
Yeah.
I don't have a plan B. I don't. So maybe it was better for me that I didn't,
Well, and this is like when you take this from a slightly different point of view. And by the way, I have to say this: some of my production crew live in Macedonia, technically North Macedonia. But yeah,
really.
Yeah. And I've got Bosnia roots because I deployed there. So when you talk about that part of the world, you got me smiling.
Nazdrovya.
Yeah. Dobar dan.
Yeah, dobre dan. So pravš. Yeah, it's great, man.
So I wanted to make sure I said hey to Dragon, who writes a lot of the notes for the show, and to Damien, who does the editing and producing with me.
Thank you. My grandparents were, my mother's name, because she couldn't even speak English until she was, 7. She was born in this country, but her parents spoke only Macedonian. Manjo and Mitra Bubev were my grandparents. And my mother's name is Veselina Bubev. Boubeff. My uncles are all Nick, George, and Pete. Everybody, all the the Macedonian Greek folks are all, so please give my regards to my Macedonian brothers and sisters.
They'll be hearing it when they edit this show for the podcast.
Great.
And I wanted to, and I want to get into Animaniacs thing too, because I'm so stoked that you guys are bringing this back, and that you guys aren't like, you've got the orchestra and all those things. I want to get into that, but quickly, you talked about singing in character, and here's my pitch idea, because there's so many ways to create with these characters. I would love to see someone like you and DiMaggio and all those other guys, start to rethink and like middle age some of these characters. Like, so, and I've had this idea for a while, right? So you take someone like Kermit, who's been through it, and have him sing "Hurt." I hurt myself today to see if I was, it's like, and then the needle tears the cloth instead of the skin, and like you just, it's so good. Or like, I don't know. I mean, any character who doesn't fit their mold, and they sing something like "Down in a Hole" about being like a heroin addict, and you're like, I didn't know,
How about that? Well, or you could say, Pinky could sing, "St. Peter, don't you call me, 'cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store." I just, what a great idea. And I have to tell you that, kiddingly, the guys who used to do, they're all, thank God, all still healthy. But the original Ninja Turtles, we used to kind of joke about it, thinking, oh my God, what happens when, because we would go to events and there would be people in the Ninja Turtle costumes, as you talked about earlier, walking around. And I couldn't help but think, oh my God, I hope that I don't end up, like that with my green tights and lots of runs in my green tights. And I'm at a mall opening with my old, turtle shell. I'm smoking a cigarette in the broom closet. The guy says, "Hey, Mr. Raphael, you're on." "Yeah, okay. All right." And I come out, "Hey, Cowabunga, is that your mom there? Oh, she's a pretty little girl, turtle power." All of that is so politically incorrect. But I thought to myself, oh my God, this is great, but I hope this isn't it, because if all you get to do, I see your point, and I have just a sense of humor that would enjoy that sort of thing. So sometimes the issues notwithstanding, legally.
If I was in a vehicle patrol in Iraq and it was appropriate to do so, I do a bit of a Roger Rabbit voice, right? And so I was like, "Locked and loaded," and just like,
Hey man, I know Charlie Fleischer really well, and that's excellent.
Yeah. The thing is, like, you could sing that, like you could do, like, he could sing colors, like, "I am a nightmare walking, a psychopath talking." And it would just be a riot to have these characters sing these songs.
I had Carl Weezer, this character I did from Jimmy Neutron, and I joined TikTok for the first time. Well, I just joined TikTok, and I didn't realize that there are like 150 million impressions of Carl Weezer. That little character, for some reason, has really struck a nerve with people. So on Halloween, I recorded Carl singing "Spooky." And so he sang, but he sang it about his crush, which was Jimmy's mother. He has this inappropriate, forbidden crush on, like Luna, on Jimmy's mom. So it was like, in the cool of the evening, when I'm thinking about my crush on Jimmy's mama, I call her up and say, "Hey, Mrs. Neutron, would you like to ride a llama?" And I love doing stuff like that, because it's the kind of stuff that I just do because it just makes me smile.
Right.
And people love that. So you're onto something, my friend. You play around with it.
It would be hilarious just to, and just have a comedy impressions album with these characters. I mean, it'd be hard as hell to license, but it's.
Oh yeah, but listen, DiMaggio, you speak Johnny. Have you talked to John? Do you know him?
We both know Jay Moore, and I've just never asked to be connected. But yeah, I mean, it's always hilarious.
You got to talk. He's remarkably. Now he's a college graduate. He's a Rutgers boy, and very smart, but super talented. Yeah. And I had him on my podcast. I used to do it live at the John Lovitz Comedy Club in Universal. And when I had him on, I love to write parody songs, as we've just discussed. And so at the time, it was at that particular moment in history, it was the second time that Anthony Weiner had been popped for doing what got him in trouble. And honestly, it's teed up for us. A guy's name is Tony Weiner.
Yeah.
Okay. So I couldn't resist, and I wrote parody lyrics to a song by the Shy Lights that you'll remember. It goes, have you seen it? Well, have you seen her? Tell me, have you? So I went, let's see. Well, I had to give up my congressional seat because I got caught texting pictures of my natural meat. I'm a wiener. They call me Tony Wiener. And Johnny was my background singer. Oh, so he's going, they call me Tony Wiener. And it was utterly, I thought it wasn't kicking somebody who was down because he's an idiot.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna go ahead and step into that again and doing something terribly inappropriate, and you're married, and it's for the public with a young girl, then I'm gonna go after you all day long because you've absolutely teed it up for me. Yeah. And the audience loved it. But Johnny, oh my God, he's from another planet. He's super talented and a great guy.
Let's real quick talk about Animaniacs, which is basically the reason why you're here. We've been having so much fun, but I had to get these things done. I'm so excited you guys are doing this. And again, you got Spielberg and all these guys who are there who need to make it incredible, and they're not skimping. They're not bringing in the wrong people. They're bringing in the right people. Talk about Animaniacs, please.
Oh, well, firstly, thank you very much for, again, lowering your entertainment standards, and you get free tickets to the Water Tower for the rest of your life. Unless, of course, you're arrested getting on the lot, then you're on your own, Pete.
Man, talk about living a dream again. As a proud blue-collar worker in the Dream Factory, we discussed the cachet of celebrity earlier. What was so overwhelmingly wonderful about this whole experience, Pete, was that 4 years ago when Sam Register, the president of Warner Brothers Animation, got Tress McNeil, who's Dot, yours truly, Yakko, and Jess Harnell, Wacko, and actually invited us to a fancy-dancy Hollywood dinner at Morton's in Burbank, literally in the shadow of the Water Tower. And we all sort of had our ideas, and we were keeping our fingers crossed, because why would they bring Yakko and Wacko and Dot together for a dinner with the head of Warner Brothers Animation? My partner Randy and I had been doing Animaniacs in concert. We had a lovely licensing deal and still do with them, so we could do it legally. And sure enough, Sam said, it seems that Mr. Spielberg is interested in doing Animaniacs again. Are you guys in?
Yes.
Now, are you kidding? Right. We all did a collective spit take, of course we're in. So he said, okay, well, don't hold your breath, because we're on Steven time. And he just wanted to make sure, he knows you guys not only can still do it, in some ways you do it better than you used to. He sees Rob and Randy doing these songs, and Rob does Tunisia, Morocco, Uganda, Angola, Zimbabwe, Djibouti, Botswana all day long. So he wanted to make sure that he could get the authenticity of the characters. Now, that is a huge deal to a guy like me, to be able to know that the undisputed king of Hollywood at 72 or 73 years old says, you know what, we're going to pitch this, and we're going to make it clear that it's going to be Maurice LaMarche, Rob Paulson, Tress McNeil, and Jess Harnell for Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain. Check this out. Not only did he want to make sure that we were interested, when it came time to pitch the show, Pete, Mr. Spielberg went to every pitch himself with his team. Yeah. He went to Hulu, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and he took 8x10. I took our 8x10s, our respective headshots, blew them up, and said, by the way, this is not going to be Liam Neeson as the Brain and Russell Brand as Pinky. Right. This is going to be these actors who were the voices 25 years ago. Right. They still do it. They do it better than they ever did. Mel Blanc lived till he was 80. These kids are way far from 80. And if we do it, they're going to be. So let's just make that clear right from the top. Are you kidding me? Yeah. And then I'll tell you what, we started recording it 2 years ago. It dropped not even 2 weeks ago on Hulu. And yesterday, I got a text from Wellesley Wild, our showrunner, our producer. And by the way, Mr. Spielberg is very hands-on, approves every script, all the casting, all of that. But check this out. We've been out for 13 days on Hulu. Yesterday, I get a text that we're number 1 on Hulu.
Oh, my God.
Great. Across all new platforms, Netflix, streaming, we're number 3. And we just displaced Stranger Things to be a number 3 over all the platforms of original material. But in terms of all shows, original and stuff that's just streaming that's from years ago, we're number 9. Wow. Now, that is a big deal. And it's not about celebrities. It's not about movie stars. It's about the content and the art for the sake of the art. And having Mr. Spielberg allows us, as you said, to have the best. A 40-piece orchestra for every half hour. Steve and Julie Bernstein are the composers who were with Richard Stone and worked with him side by side on the original shows. He sadly passed away, but Steve and Julie have that traditional Animaniacs DNA. And we're living a dream again. And the audience is exponentially larger than it was the first go around. So it's not an accident. And I am beyond grateful to be in this position. And again, all I got to do is start doing this. And there you go. And how it doesn't get any better. And by the way, clearly I was aptly cast as Yakko because I'm shut up for an hour, but you give me this lovely platform. We talk about serendipity and our timing. We know that everyone who's listening is living in the same time as we are in 2020. And this, irrespective of your politics or your personal situation financially or your religion or your issues with race or whatever, all of those issues have been brought to bear on the world with COVID. And right, all of us are struggling in our own ways. The world is struggling. Turns out that Animaniacs is going to take this prodigious amount of nasty, stinky, obnoxious lemons that has been dumped on the world, and we get to make a big vat of Acme lemonade.
Yes.
And we're not going to change the world, but I'll tell you what, there are a lot of people who are going to be really happy that Animaniacs is around, if for no other reason just to say, give me a couple of beers or an edible. I'm going to watch Pinky and the Brain because I've had enough. How lucky, what a privilege to be in this position. As they say, there are no accidents, and Mr. Spielberg made it happen. So, and Hulu, God bless him.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. Yeah, everybody should go to Hulu, and if you aren't signed up, here's a good reason to sign up. They have a free trial, of course. I'm not paid to say that. Just go.
No, me neither.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful collaboration between, and mind you, we're talking about technology that wasn't even thought of when this first batch came around. This is such a unique circumstance. So Sam Register at Warner Brothers, Mr. Spielberg at Amblin, and Hulu, they really have conspired to allow so much joy to emanate from, God bless them, from Hollywood, the place that everybody depends on. You know, it happened in the First World War, the Second World War, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and here we are now with people being able to look to Hollywood and say, oh God, can you help us through this?
Yeah.
And boy, I am so grateful.
A day can be pretty crappy, but if you get to sit back and have a little glass of lemonade, it just gets a little better for a few minutes, you know?
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really, it means a lot that you would give me such an opportunity to say my piece, because just as we talked about, you know, the cachet of celebrity, it is not lost on me, Pete, that nice folks like you who are heroes because of what you've done for your fellow man and for the country, but you give people like me who are journeyman actors a chance to tell our stories. And it turns out that they're often interesting. And if we can, like you, if by asking questions and telling stories, we're able to inspire other people to understand that, oh yeah, everybody takes a punch. Nobody gets out here with a couple of dings, kid.
Yeah.
And you know what? I know you don't believe me, but a couple of years from now, you will.
Yeah.
And someday you might say, you know, I heard this interview a while back with that guy, Ron Coleman. I don't even know what his name was,
Yes.
but he said something about something he struggled with in his 50s that is really resonating with me. I just got laid off, but you know what? I've had this thing in the back of my mind, and God damn it, I'm going to go for it. And it turns out I was right. And I listened to that guy on Pete's pod. I think he's dead now, but boy, was he, you know, and that's the kind of stuff, what we're doing is permanent.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for that. So thank you, my friend.
I want to take 30 seconds and say one more thing. One, thank you so much for everything that you do. And if no one else tells you today, you are making the world a better place. And thank you. I genuinely thank you for that. And the other thing is when young people say, I think I'm going to quit college, here's what I say. I go, look, we all know a college degree is helpful. And you're, I don't know, some number, 18 months from finishing this thing up. Let me describe to you being an adult. Picture yourself on the 405 every day, racing to get into traffic so you can get home, be exhausted, have your boss tell you it's never good enough, and then they drive around. I've been in the meeting where the vice president's like, we didn't have such a good year this year. I got a bonus, though. And you're like, what?
Oh. I'm the one who's busting my ass, and you got a bonus?
Not good enough, Pete. But I hit your number. Yeah, well, you didn't hit the stretch number. I got a new Corvette. Have you seen it? I'm like, oh my God. So that is what being an adult is like. And if you're desperate to get into that, you know, to go claw your way to middle management and everything, by all means, get started. But I promise it will never be harder or easier than right now when you're in college. It is so easy. Just stick to it.
Well said. And I remember, boy, you and I are running the same. It's amazing. This is a great interview. I remember thinking of my father, the last 15 years of his working life, he was a successful steel salesman in Detroit.
Yeah.
He should have stayed in the military. I remember when he was, one night we were at a wedding and my dad had a couple of pops and, I'm the oldest son. I'm a hockey player and, a typical boy. God, I love you, son. I'm so proud of you. I couldn't have picked a better kid, but you know what? I should have been a soldier. I should have stayed in the military. That's what I'm about. But the last 15 years of his working life, he lived another 15 years after retired, but he was miserable, hated it. It was all about goddamn paperwork and, honey, you and the kids go up to the beach. I'll come up later, whatever. And he busted his butt and did really well, but he hated it.
Yeah.
And I thanked him for his example unknowingly. I said, it was difficult to not have you be a happy guy a lot of the times because mom is just a walking ball of sunshine. So it was difficult for us to not see you as happy. But I got to tell you, your example of not quitting because it was the best for your family, irrespective of whether it was not best for you, was something that taught me that when I was young enough and unencumbered by a relationship, financial responsibilities, that was the time for me to pull the plug on college. As much as I hated the thought of upsetting you, it took me a week to figure out how to tell you. I didn't sleep.
Right.
But your example gave me the confidence to pull the plug on my college and do what really, really was important to me, irrespective of the way it came out. So, man, it's really cool how that stuff shakes out. And you are you're a really excellent therapist.
Well, listen, everybody should go to Hulu and check out Animaniacs. And I tell you to love Rob, but you already do. Just
thank you,
support Rob. And by the way, I put a link and I'll pull it up right now to his TED Talk. So if you guys ever want to see that.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's that TED Talk. If you're listening on the podcast side, that stuff will all be in the show notes. Rob, thank you again so much. I really appreciate it.
My great pleasure, Pete. And Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Solstice, whatever gets you through. And remember that laughter is the best medicine, kids. The cool thing is you can't OD and the refills are free. And I'm sticking to that.